kamera kører. Så vi skal møde ham inde i byen.
Jo, altså han skriver i sin mail, some of the crooks haven't been mentioned yet.
You want me to sit in this? What is this bullshit? There's nothing to hide. Ask me.
Why does a country want to host the Football World Cup?
It's definitely a major event to position your country, to display it throughout the world, to show its advantages, to show the people, and maybe to correct some image factors.
England was going head-to-head with Russia for the 2018 World Cup, and they became increasingly concerned about Russia's activities.
Die Politik hat in den Fußball eingegriffen, ganz bestimmt.
There was massive political interference.
Vladimir Putin called in a trusted cabal of oligarchs and told them, go out there and do what it takes.
There is ice-cold financial and economic interests involved. They tried everything to win.
Russia had established a surveillance unit in London.
We are back to almost like a Cold War situation with diplomats and secret services agents being expelled.
And then the next thing you do, you hire spooks to spy on the opposition.
And we've got the World Cup coming.
How do you feel about FIFA's choice of Russia as a host for the World Cup?
It still leaves, for me, a bitter taste in my mouth, knowing that there's allegations, serious allegations, that they cheated, that they paid for votes, and that actually, you know, England might have been the ones who should have got the votes and should now be hosting the World Cup.
И из-за этого, типа, в том числе, опять же, англичане говорили то, что мы купили. Но камон.
Блин, камон, чуваки.
Ну что, Россия самая богатая в мире страна. Кто-то, ну, кто хотел, тот мог купить. Если бы можно было купить, Эмираты бы давно купили. Я отвечаю.
We would like to think, everyone likes to think that we're kind of noble and playing the rules in the right way, but we don't know that England were, you know, that we weren't, okay, we don't know that we didn't play the rules the right way. We just don't know that.
And the game is underway. West Germany, England. The 1966 World Cup final here at Wembley Stadium, London, has started.
One of the things about football is that it engages you emotionally.
Can Hurst get a shot in? There's a chance for Jeff Hurst.
I was able to watch the match on television whilst I was working, which was fortunate.
And Bobby Moore.
I do very much remember Franz Beckenbauer playing in that World Cup. I loved watching it and I loved winning. I was absolutely delighted by winning.
And he's hit the bar. It must be a goal. I would have thought that went in, but he's not giving it. Yes, it's given. England is in the lead. The referee, Mr. Dean, went across to the line. Another goal from Hurst. What a sight. What an incredible sight. England has won the World Cup final.
I have a memory of it being a huge source of fun to the older men in my family and therefore to me.
certainly hit the underneath part of the bar and bounced out.
I'd love to have the World Cup. I'd dearly love to see it in England.
This is the launch day of the 2018 World Cup bid.
I only became involved as early as I did because Gordon Brown, then the Prime Minister, had announced it.
It's a great day for football. It's a great day for our country. Here in England, the home of football, the government will do everything we can to ensure that Lord Treesman record a famous victory, winning in this campaign.
We need to put together the strongest possible bid to win. Now, we must persuade our international friends and colleagues of our case.
I want it to happen in my lifetime. I would love it to happen in my lifetime. I think we would have done a great... I mean, from a practical level, we have the infrastructure, we have the state. You know, you can almost have a World Cup in London.
Can you start by explaining how a country wins the right to host the World Cup?
Well, at the very beginning, we didn't know who all of the competition would be. I had found out that there would be a Russian bid.
Så Lord Treesmans russiske modstykke, det er ham her, Alexander Sorokin.
Ja. Han stod i spidsen for Ruslands kampagne for at blive VM-vært.
Have you told Mr. Sorokin that what we want to talk about, the bid campaign and preparing for the World Cup? Clip a microphone on your jacket.
Who is interested in the bid?
I'll tell you.
It's amazing.
The Englishmen are still interested in the bid.
I don't remember much. It was too long ago.
Let's try.
Our pitch was very simple. It's a big footballing country that plays football for many, many decades. Yet we never had a big competition, ever. We were never complacent about our victory. We always thought that it's not going to be easy. As our competitors, we had some of the great football nations.
Any country then presents its candidacy and then puts together a bid. You've got to have the right infrastructure, obviously, because it's the biggest show on earth. So you have to have so many stadiums which can house so many spectators, each of them. You have to have a transport infrastructure. You have to have a hotel infrastructure. You have to show and prove, ultimately, that you can organize the event.
Well, we always knew that it was the FIFA Executive Committee that is going to be voting.
In 2010, Sepp Blatter was the president of FIFA, and he had what you would call almost like a council of ministers, the executive committee. I see Michel Platini, Ballon d'Or. I see Franz Beckenbauer, and I'm going through it, and I'm not seeing too many wonderful ex-athletes in there. Were, I would say, professional football politicians. Basically the envoys of the confederations, which are continental confederations. So you will have for Africa, Europe, North America, and so on. One member, one vote. Now, technically, that's how it works. How it's worked historically is completely different.
I thought that the Russian bid was mysterious. I could find more or less no information about it.
And we've got to be very careful here. There have been a number of allegations made about the Russian bid and the way it worked. But it seems that nobody has been able to put the finger on anything.
But to find out what really happened in the race for 2018, who should we talk to?
There is one person who knew everything. Peter Hargitay. Peter Hargitay is a magnificent source for this story because he's somebody who knew intimately some of the major actors, the people who genuinely pulled the strings of the background. They were his friends.
Så vi skal møde ham inde i byen.
Jo, altså han skriver i sin mail, some of the crooks haven't been mentioned yet. Det er meget kryptisk. Han skriver også, there are a few accounts that need to be settled. Why don't we talk about it when we meet? Come to Budapest, check in at the hotel across the street from the St. Stephen's Basilica. I'll meet you in the lobby.
He was in all the right places always at the right time. He's the outsider who genuinely had a look in.
Okay, we can push ahead. What's going on in Europe, man? I mean, it's pushing to the right that gives you a headache. It's disgusting. It's your fault, you know. Your generation, you are completely... I mean, what's wrong with you people? You guys, you're just sitting there, enjoying your fucking Netflix. You're a disgrace.
When England hired you, what is it that they are paying for?
Know-how. Network. Access to select members of the ExCo. These are the things, yes. I got invited to develop a strategy paper of the English bid.
Peter Hargitay, who knows everybody in the FIFA Executive Committee. He knows everything about every one of them. And in every one of their cases, there would be something that we would be able to offer them, which would lead to them thinking that England was a fine place to have a World Cup. I said, whatever we do, we're not going to do any of that.
You also wrote in your email to us, some of the crooks haven't been mentioned yet in this process, and there are a few accounts that need to be settled. What did you mean?
There are people who were deeply dishonest. Before the vote in 2010, there was massive political interference in the voting process. Not to mention the rampant corruption that goes with huge projects. That's where the human side of things comes in, the greed. I mean, also the English bit would use spies.
What exactly is it that England did in terms of using spooks?
Well, I wouldn't know the details, would I?
Så inden at vi skal møde 100 dem, der ved mest om, hvordan kampen mellem England og Rusland foregik.
Ja, for hun er den eneste journalist, som har haft direkte kontakt med de spioner, det engelske bud ydede.
Hi.
Hi, hi.
Great to meet you. How are
Nice
you
to
doing?
meet you. I'm good.
Excellent.
I like this place.
It's great, isn't it? It's lovely. You can buy all kinds of weird meat. The relationship between Britain and Russia is deeply complicated. I mean, in 2010, that was only 4 years after Russia had sent 2 FSB agents, agents of their own secret service, to assassinate a British citizen, Alexander Litvinenko, a Russian defector who was living here under the protection of the British government.
And that's when England and Russia was competing for the World Cup, right?
England was going head-to-head with Russia for the 2018 World Cup. And they became increasingly concerned about Russia's activities and the sorts of deals they were doing with voters. So they'd hired in these 2 private intelligence companies, both of which had very close links to MI6, Britain's secret intelligence service. And they were compiling intelligence on what Russia was up to.
Is it true that England used intelligence services?
When people talk about gathering intelligence, I think it's really important to be precise about what you mean by the terms. Well, on occasions we did it by picking up information that we just stumbled across. It was on occasions more systematic.
So we know that the 2 private intelligence companies that were hired were gathering information in Russia from people close to Russia's 2018 bid and Russia's executive committee member. They were looking for secrets. But we also know that that Britain was using its network of embassies around the world to gather intelligence on the activities of FIFA's voters. So it was a government effort.
Can you say more about these 2 private intelligence agencies?
Well, both of the private intelligence agencies that the England bid hired were highly elite, both of them staffed by extremely senior former MI6 spies, mainly gathering information from a human intelligence network in Russia.
We wanted to know which of the other bids were getting around, what arrangements they'd made. Almost all of this information is relatively public domain. You should just be able to say with a degree of certainty about who was going where, broadly speaking, who it was they were seeing. And we did that pretty systematically so that we didn't miss things that we shouldn't miss.
You know, if you're competing against Russia, you're competing against a number of very sophisticated, hard-nosed, smart, intelligent people. And if you underestimate them, that's the biggest mistake you can make. And if you try to beat them at their game, namely to undermine them and, you know, use intelligence against them, it doesn't work like that. They beat you at it. They've done so for 60 years, come on. Their intelligence is always better, always. Mr. Treisman, he fired all the consultants. I wasn't hurt. I just didn't want to work with that guy. When I started to approach Blatter about some bids I would like to work on, and England made me an offer to work with them, he looked at me and said, "Don't do it." I said, why? They will never win.
In 700 Metern rechts abbiegen in die Straße Albis-Riederstraße.
Så FIFAs tidligere præsident Sepp Blatter, han vil fortælle, hvorfor han mener, det gik, som det gik mellem England og Rusland.
Ja, og det er jo interessant, fordi Blatter er kendt som en meget god ven af Vladimir Putin. Og på den anden side, så har han altid haft et ret anstrengt forhold til England.
Guten Tag, Herr Blatter.
Guten Tag, wie geht's Ihnen?
Mir geht's gut, wie geht's Ihnen?
Auch sehr gut, danke.
Sepp Blatter, whose grand scheme, as he has admitted since then, was always to have Russia and America.
Wer hat es nie bekommen? Und das ist Osteuropa, hat nie die WM gehabt. Für Russland nach den Olympischen Spielen 1980 hatten die ja keine große, also keine Olympischen Spiele mehr, auch keine WM.
Sepp Blatter would have ended the Cold War, you know, one of those things, his grand dream, his great legacy.
So, Russland, das größte Land der Welt, das wäre etwas.
Не, ты понимаешь, типа, вот я слышал по Яндексу, я, кстати, читал сегодня новость, что, типа, английский парламент сказал, что, типа, проведение, это реально, я сейчас не прикалываюсь, даже суть не в камере, реально, прикинь, английский парламент, короче, знаешь, что заявил, что чемпионат мира, короче, в России это то же самое, что Олимпиада в 1936 году, короче, при Гитлере. Да, ну, то есть это, короче, типа такое же сравнение, типа как...
Okay, vi skal være der 8:30, ikke?
Ja, der begynder mødet, hvor Sorokin skal vise en FIFA-delegation, at de er klar til VM her om 3 måneder.
Let's say, to bring the football to the new territories, to open football to new territories and open new territories to football as well. This is how it is, and this is good. I mean, Russia never hosted the World Cup in its history. Yeah, this is really important to show who we are and how we are. That we are not like vodka in one pocket and, I don't know, a gun in the other pocket.
There are still some stereotypes which people live by. Well, the World Cup, I hope, will mean a lot for the country. It's a chance for us to show new democratic country, people that have reached a lot of progress. The environment in which I was brought up was totally different. We've seen a lot of painful transformation. When I was a child, we could not, for example, easily go abroad for summer vacation, and now we can. There was no private enterprises when I was brought up. So, yeah, it's quite a difference. You can say that.
Here, of course, we will have new seats on the Eastern Tribune, 7 rows. It will be upgraded to the soft seats ready as well. And then, of course, concessions.
You need to show how it's going to be organized. You need to tell them about the concept that you are putting forward.
Да, добрый день, уважаемые коллеги. Мы сегодня завершаем вторую часть нашего 7-го инспекционного визита. Завершаем ее в Казани. В городе Казани пройдут 6 матчей. Будут достаточно сильные команды и Франции, и Германии.
And I hope they discover that it's a country that is not much different from the West in terms of way of life, in terms of values.
Whereas England could be seen as being arrogant and too sure of themselves, Russia played the game of, we are asking the world a favor, we're asking the world to help us change. That's a fantastic message.
So everybody felt a certain drive and dynamism coming out of Russia, and Russia had the right momentum going. And people always felt that the English are very arrogant. They went for the usual approach that David will clinch it, Prince William will clinch it, and the Prime Minister will clinch it.
Well, the strongest bid, I think, for 2018 from a technical point of view and a revenues point of view was England. You try and go around and you try and describe the things you want to achieve in your own country, in your own bid.
The England team went to play in Trinidad. Why? Trinidad? World power in soccer? No, because of Jack Warner. You know, you used to be our colony kind of thing, and we are here like, you know, we like you now, kind of, yeah. This just didn't go down.
The advantages of having been a Foreign Office minister kicked in because a large number of people knew me.
Jack Warner kept telling them, you are not liked. I can state that with certainty as far as the Caribbean is concerned. Because I lived there, and Mr. Treisman did not, but he was the foreign minister for that region. So he had a different opinion of how much they love him. They didn't.
I had a discussion, as you can imagine, with the Latin American voters at different times. And I particularly remember the discussion with Grondona, the Argentinian. And he said, I will vote for England if you will give us back the Falkland Islands, or the Malvinas, as he put it. And I had to explain very patiently that whilst the chairman of the FA was in a very privileged position, decisions over handing back sovereign territories to Argentina was not within my powers.
If you have an air of entitlement about you, if you're talking to an Argentinian with whom you were at war 10 minutes before, right, over the Falklands, and he was an influential guy. So there you already had like 3, 4, 5 people who were never going to vote for you.
Så mens Lord Treisman rejser rundt og prøver at overbevise verden om, at England skal være VM-vært, så får Harketay et nyt job fra Australien, som vil være vært for VM i 2022. Og det er her, han møder den her berygtede tyske konsulent.
So very quickly after the English bid, we abandoned that. We started to work for Australia.
FIFA had decided on this particular occasion to award 2 World Cups at once. At the beginning, countries could bid for both 2018 and 2022. After a while, it was decided that it would be better if some confederations could concentrate on 2018 and some other confederations could concentrate on 2022.
And in Australia, you work with another consultant.
A guy called Fedor Radman. Fedor was the guy who pulled strings very successfully. And most importantly, in this particular case, he was also a close ally of Franz Beckenbauer. He would advise Franz to do things, and Franz would always follow his advice. He was very crucial in the German bid to bring the World Cup to Germany.
Imagine if you can get the support of somebody who's got the footballing aura of Franz Beckenbauer.
Franzl Beckenbauer. Franzl Beckenbauer, der Kaiser. Ein echter Weltsportler, ein technischer...
We're talking about somebody who is one of the greatest footballers in history, with somebody who's achieved absolutely everything there is to be achieved in the game. Having him on your side, obviously, is going to be a great help because he knows the mechanics. And to get the Kaiser on your side, you go to Radman.
The very first thing this guy, Fedor Radman, told me in the first meeting, he said that we have to be completely careful about telephone interception and email interception. And I was laughing, really. I said, what are you talking about? This is about a sports event. Man, he was right.
So in the spring of 2010, there was a real step change in the Russian bid. Before that, Vladimir Putin hadn't really shown very much interest in how the bid was doing, but it became clear to him that Russia might actually lose and that would be extremely embarrassing. And he then swung into gear, called in a trusted cabal of oligarchs and told them, go out there and do what it takes to win this bid for us. The intelligence that the England bid then started to get in was that those oligarchs had been told to do deniable deals with FIFA voters. So what we learned from speaking to the many sources involved was that Russia had established a surveillance unit in London, which was tasked with spying on the England bid and figuring out what they were doing.
We did take some measures in case we were being spied on. After receiving, I think, a bit of a surprise about the extent of penetration of our computers, began to make sure that we were very, very much more security conscious.
But do you know who hacked your computers or your emails?
I think I know who hacked them, yes.
But you don't want to say?
No, because I think if I do say, I will reveal how I will end up accidentally revealing how I know.
It's still quite fascinating to read these stories about intelligence services being involved in this process. Which, I mean, to me, that was surprising.
Of which country?
Of several countries.
I never encountered any involvement of intelligence services. Oh, that I can promise you.
But for instance, talk about FSB having a surveillance unit in London set up. This must be on your radar.
No, honestly, I don't know what to say about it. I was never aware of any involvement. Certainly, I was not the reason for any involvement of any intelligence service.
Ну, блин, камон, во-первых, англичане не любят русских исторически. Во-вторых, они очень чопорные. Во-вторых, точнее, уже не во-вторых, а в-четвертых, получается, английская сборная далеко не самая сильная.
Не самая сильная вообще.
In South Africa during the World Cup in summer of 2010. Everybody was there, obviously. And the Michelangelo Hotel was like crazy. Every big team was there. All the exco were staying there, so everybody tried to be there. Radman was there and not there. He was traveling a lot. From what I remember, Fedor went to Russia independently from the bid that we were doing a few times.
Fedor Radman's role with our bid wasn't even known until very, very late in the piece.
Why? Was it kept secret?
Well, that's the question I asked. Why are we keeping the engagement of these consultants secret?
Fedor went to Russia to do with some business that he was preparing for France or something.
Gazprom, ein märchenhaft reicher Konzern in Moskau, einer der 10 reichsten der Welt.
They're one of the biggest companies in Russia. They want to help promote Russia in a positive way.
Die Abhängigkeiten zwischen Russland und Deutschland sind so riesengroß, gerade auf Wirtschaftsebenen. Insofern ist für Gazprom der deutsche Markt ein extrem wichtiger Markt, unser Hauptmarkt.
It would be fair to assume that they supported the bid.
I first heard about the rumour of Beckenbauer having a deal with Gazprom in June 2010. Negotiating before the vote, when Russia was bidding for 2018 and Gazprom was a major sponsor of the Russian bid, it was against the bidding guidelines. Sometime later, well into the following year, if not 2012, that was actually announced by Gazprom. Gazprom had negotiated a deal with Franz Beckenbauer to be an ambassador.
A lot has been made about Gazprom's involvement with the bid. Were they part of your bid?
Honestly, I don't really remember any particular financial support from Gazprom at the time.
Radmann?
Guten Tag, Herr Radmann. Mein Name ist Niels Borchert Holm. Ich bin dänischer Journalist. Darf ich einen Moment stören?
Woher haben Sie meine Nummer?
Ich hätte eine Frage, wenn ich die stellen darf.
Nein, ich spreche mit den Medien nicht.
Aber das ist eine ganz kurze Frage.
Nein, es gibt keine Frage, keine Antwort. Ich bin so von den Medien enttäuscht, das hat keinen Sinn. Ja?
Ich probiere trotzdem mal, ob Sie im Sommer 2010 für Franz Beckenbauer einen Vertrag hatten.
Wiederhören.
Han lagde på. Meget bestemt.
Es wird viel über Korruption im Fußball gesprochen. Ob jetzt bezahlt wird oder nicht bezahlt wird, das kann ich nicht sagen, weil ich es nicht weiß. Ich bin nicht bezahlt. Aber wenn man hineinsieht, wie die Entscheide gefallen sind es nicht Entscheide, weil jemand mehr Geld oder weniger Geld bekommen hat. Diese großen Ereignisse wie der Weltcup und wie die Olympischen Spiele, die haben eben eine politische Dimension erhalten.
Before the vote in 2010, there was massive political interference in the voting process. The night before the vote, that's where people are hoping to turn people around, to make sure that they are with them. It's a frantic night. It happened all in the Borolac, and you have to see the scene that there's this large lobby. You had the various bits cuddled in corners. So you try to figure out who is with you, who is against you. So basically, it was a big tohu vabohu madness running around. The Qatar delegation, they were at the Dol de Grand. I believe the Russians were also in the Dol de Grand. There were a lot of rumors flying around that Putin had landed, that Putin was in Zurich. Honestly, I didn't see any of the Russians that evening.
The night before, you only rehearse, you don't campaign, because it's already too late. If you haven't done your homework over the preceding year and a half, it's too late. So all it counts is the number of votes. That's it.
I was there with Fedor that evening, and we were in the middle of making an assessment, and then suddenly he gets a call, he jumps up, and he says to leave. I say, are you out of your mind? You cannot leave now. I mean, come on. So I asked him, where the hell are you going, you know? And then he told me that France had called him, that an envoy of the German president had landed in Zurich and wanted to see France. And he said, it's very important, it's crucial that I go. Now, I was not present at that meeting between France and the envoy, but I know for a fact that requests were submitted to France to vote in a special way.
According to my German source, somebody was quite high-ranking within German football. German President Christian Wolff met Franz Beckenbauer and indicated to him who he should vote for. His best choices would be Russia for 2018.
The German president, what drives him? Why would he go to Zurich and lobby for Russia to become host of the World Cup?
I think you would probably have to check on what deals were being done on gas, where next winter's supply was coming from. Do we want to have a better friend and an ally who, together with Iran, has the biggest gas field in the world? Well, maybe, probably.
So a lot of these things happen state to state, at the highest levels of government, where governments meet and see what mutual interests they have, how they can profit from each other.
I remember very well that I slept only 2 hours before the day of the presentation. We're all very nervous, of course. There was much at stake. We really wanted to win.
The vote to determine the organizer of the 2018 World Cup was achieved, very quickly wrapped up, which came as a surprise.
There were many speculations that we knew the result. We didn't know the result until the envelope was open, and it was the absolute moment of glory when we saw Russia written on it.
And the Russians exploded. It was like fiesta. Probably the only time in my life where I saw Sorokin laugh. You know. And there was a stunned silence on the English bench. Incredulity, like scandal, like who stole it, you know?
But it was a humiliation for England, an absolute humiliation for the English.
And Blatter was right. They never had a chance.
Es ist erstaunlich, dass England nur so wenig Stimmen gemacht hat. Also nur eine eigentlich. Aber da muss ich England fragen, was haben wir denn falsch gemacht, damit mit der FIFA jetzt nur ein einziger Mensch neben unserem stimmt?
Many of these people came from countries where Britain is not necessarily seen very kindly.
In a funny way, their approach is post-colonial, right? We have might. No, you don't. We have power. No, you don't. We are the greatest. No, you're not.
Wladimir Putin ist dann auch nach Zürich gekommen und hat dann die Pressekonferenz gemacht, hat mich dann getroffen und dann sind wir auf Freundschaft gewesen.
Haben Sie für Russland gestimmt?
Ich habe Russland unterstützt.
Part of me will feel frustrated and aggrieved and angry at the fact that how did Russia get to be in the limelight? You know, how did Putin get to open the game? Be seen in the international spotlight.
Something was implanted in, I think, many English people's minds. We've been had, we've been done, we've been swindled again by FIFA and by the Russians. And we're now in 2018, where the political climate has changed an awful lot. The big bear is no longer fluffy at all, where we're back to almost like a Cold War situation.
A couple of days ago in Salisbury in Wiltshire, a former Russian spy by the name of Sergei Skripal and his daughter were targeted with a nerve agent, like a very toxic chemical.
Det er en vild historie, der er breaket i dag med det der giftangreb.
Ja, og det er næsten endnu vildere, at den britiske udenrigsminister siger, at det kan have konsekvenser for Englands VM-deltagelse.
Som om, at spionkrigen ikke rigtig er overstået.
Den kører videre.
And we have to wonder at one point where it will stop, where the escalation will stop.
Вот, но просто ситуация, короче, с Англией, она весьма показательна, потому что я, честно говоря, вот эти, типа, все заявления там, типа, о каком-то... Ну, просто, блин, вот, недавно был прецедент, типа, с этим, с убийством, типа, какого-то шпиона.
С отравлением.
Да, с отравлением.
Ну, с якобы отравлением.
Типа, обвинили русскую сторону, и после этого вышло заявление в Яндексе, типа, что... Да.
There's a single thread running through it here. There's this great opposition, which is now going to come to a head at the World Cup, which is going to be played in the country which humiliated England.
I'm just looking forward to the World Cup as like a festival of football, as I bet loads of Russian football fans are looking forward to it as a festival of football.
Не знаю, я вижу два развития события. Ну, во-первых, это чудо, если мы выйдем из группы, потому что мы никогда не выходим из группы.
Ну, короче, нет, мы выйдем из группы, только если мы обыграем Саудовскую Аравию, что, ну, это должно...
As a football fan, I kind of want to I want to allow myself to be an idiot and to believe we can win it and all that kind of stuff, because
what do you
that's
think?
what it's about.
What is it that these fans don't understand about this world?
Everything. Nothing. It's just how it is.
I'll cheer for England. I'm very patriotic about the side. I hope that we're going to do well. What I'm afraid will not be able to do is see it as the sort of celebration that I used to see it as.
And this is not about football. Don't misunderstand that. This is about status. This is about legacy. This is about portraying to the world that you're a cool nation, that you can do stuff. So, to the fan, it's about football. To the spectator, to the viewer on TV, it's about football. But it's only about football the day it starts and the day it ends with the final. Before and after, it's nothing about football. It's about politics. It's always about politics.